Hello, you're listening to another episode of the Medic Side Hustles podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Shubhendu Kulshreshtha, an executive coach and emergency physician, helping clinicians like you make medicine your side hustle. Today, I'll be my own special guest as we've had to move a few things around, but we'll be back next week on the 17th of May with Dr. Aman Sharma live and talking about his journey on the clinical entrepreneur program, how he used and started and grew his YouTube channel, and a couple of his other ventures that he's recently been involved with. But for today, I want to do something slightly different, make this still a valuable episode for you, and make sure that we've got an episode out every Wednesday morning. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button or the follow button if you're on Spotify. Share this with somebody who needs to hear about what clinicians can do beyond just clinical work. Once again, a massive thanks to Dr. Akash Vijayan for the intro music to this podcast. He's absolutely fantastic and hope it puts you in the right frame of mind to be having these kind of conversations where you're thinking big and you're thinking strong and you're really trying to take your career to the next level. So I was thinking how I could make this episode the most valuable for you. And I'm not that great with rambling on about myself and talking about a couple of different topics. So what I've done here is asked my best friend who knows me and you really, really well, AI, ChatGPT, to come up with a couple of questions that I thought I'll answer and see where that takes this conversation. So without further ado, let's dive into the first one. The first question is, why do smart, ambitious clinicians still feel stuck even when they're doing everything right? So this is a really resonant question, isn't it? I think there's a lot of us that feel stuck in healthcare, whether we're in the UK or in India or in the US or various other parts of the world. The feeling of frustration and being stuck within the healthcare system is really, really strong across the domain, whether you're a doctor or a nurse or an allied healthcare professional, a radiologist, a dietitian, or anything else. And that word stuck is not fully representative of exactly what we're feeling. And I'll try and share my take on this. And based on my experiences and the hundreds of people that I've spoken to about their clinical careers and what they want to do outside of medicine. So I think there's fundamentally a shift in the role that clinicians or other healthcare professionals play in the healthcare system. And if you haven't already, have a listen to ZDog MD, Zubin Damania, talk about Healthcare 3.0 and the various versions of healthcare that have existed. So we used to have this doctor-patient relationship where doctor was God and one doctor could be fantastic and the other doctor could be absolutely rubbish. And from there, we've gradually, over time, moved into a industrialized version of healthcare. Now, we've done this choosing efficiency and safety and better patient outcomes and consistency. However, making that choice, and you and I didn't make that choice, somebody made that choice, and we said this is better for patients, this is better for the system, this is also better for business because it makes more money and reduces waste. And we made that choice, and as a result, we've reduced the power that each of us has in being able to make a difference to what really matters, because we don't want just anybody willy-nilly changing things up, because that could make a lot of things go wrong. We've also somehow taken away the benefits of doing things right and the benefits of saving the system or improving the system in a way that creates real value for it. And I think this has ended up happening because you can't give somebody equity in terms of both monetary as well as non-monetary equity. You can't give them reputation and credibility and value for something that they've created, but not let them have influence on the system. And I think lastly, we've then started to have a real shift in terms of the values that we practice by. From a medic's perspective and people who really interact with patients, all sorts of clinicians, we know that everything is very much patient-centered. But when you don't allow those people to take part in the decisions that really matter and make a difference, then the decisions that are guided by values. I mean, decisions really are a representation of your values. And when those decisions get taken, the underlying values and principles are different from the ones that a clinician would have, holding the patient at the center of everything. And so eventually, we've gotten to this version of industrialized healthcare, where a person is reduced to their knowledge and skills, both of which are very rapidly being replaced. And that begs the question, what really is today's value of a clinician, of a person working in the front line, a nurse, a doctor, anyone else interacting with patients? What is their value if it's not the skills they bring, if it's not the knowledge that they have? What is the value? And the truth is, it's rapidly changing and rapidly evolving, and it's going to change further in the future. And introduction of physician associates and PAs and other roles of allied healthcare professionals coming in to fill those little gaps where a specific skill or a specific bit of knowledge is required is a sign that this change is taking place. AI is around the corner, and we say that it's not going to take our jobs. It's not, but it's going to help fill in those little gaps. So you're always going to have a job. The question is, what does that job look like? And how do you get ahead of the curve in terms of figuring out what that means for you? So I think these are the couple of trends that are taking place at the moment. The narrative is that we want human connection, we want patient-centered care, we want safe outcomes, and we want safe decisions. And as a doctor, as a clinician, you're really at a junction of what happens to the patient versus what can be brought together to help the patient. Now, both of those areas are changing. So on one side, the kind of patient that comes to you, what they're expecting is changing. And on the other side, what you can bring to the patient is changing. I mean, in emergency medicine, one of the greatest things I get to experience is the ability to bring an entire hospital's power and might and resources down to that one person who needs it to save their life. Now, in addition to all of the people and the resources, we have the systems in place. We have other channels of getting support, such as expert opinions. And now, hopefully soon, we'll also have AI in the realm there. So if you haven't already, go back and have a listen to my episode with Dr. Nada Abedin, where we kind of explore AI for clinicians, and a couple of fantastic resources in there as well. What patients are expecting is also changing. I think there is a fundamental threat to the doctor-patient relationship because of how complicated and confusing it can be. So from that perspective, if you imagine information not being the basis on which you have credibility or authority, the degrees and the courses and the fellowships that you do will very rapidly not have the credibility and authority. In fact, probably you might have already experienced a couple of people who've trained in fantastic places, but don't have the ability to convey the credibility and authority and their value to the people that they serve. And I think what I'm trying to say here is that to be an effective and impactful clinician in the future, someone who makes a bigger difference with a lesser amount of work, who makes the right choices in their career and the way they frame their career, is going to be somebody who understands the three realms of what I call the zone of impact. So purpose and its alignment with purpose, influence and the ability to build it, equity and the various forms of equity that you can hold, and how to make them come to life. So once you have all three of them, once you have alignment with your purpose and ability to make a difference and equity that kind of speaks for you even if you're not in the room, then you're in that zone of impact where you can start to have a career that's meaningful to you, but also creates a difference so that throughout your lifetime you're making change in an upward spiral rather than a downward spiral where a lot of us might be already. So lots of stuff in there, but a long answer to this question of why are we feeling stuck? And I think it's because there's a loss of alignment, there's a loss of an ability to make an influence. And even when we do manage to do something well, there is lack of capital that builds along with it that allows us to eventually break free from the time for money and service and location trap that often many of us are stuck in. And I think that's where the sense of feeling stuck and frustrated comes from. I think stepping out of that zone into your zone of impact is probably a good place to start. And if this sounds really confusing, come across to my session the 20th of May. You can go to my website, coachwithshub.com/induction. To register for it, and I'll share a bit more in terms of what that looks like and what that means and how do you use it. It's something that we definitely do in the Clinician Impact Actionship, the founding cohort, which is going absolutely fantastically well. It's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of effort, but it's all meaningful and career changing. I think with that, let me go into the next question, which ChatGPT has put together for us. It wants to ask, what does it actually mean to make medicine your side hustle? Why now? So if I hadn't already alluded to the changing trends and the ongoing narratives in the healthcare space, then there's clearly a need for us to figure out our careers in a way that's different and new. And if we don't do it now, we're all just going to continue to be prey to this industrialized version of healthcare, where at the end of it, we're hoping that further specialization, courses and degrees are going to give us the life that we've been looking for all along. But surprise, surprise, I don't think we are. So what does it actually mean to make medicine your side hustle? And this is a phrase I came up with because I met so many people, myself included, who were just desperately looking for a side hustle, a way to make more money so that they could scale down their clinical time. And to the extent that I got kind of frustrated with it, I mean, you can't just do anything and everything for the sake of making money, everything from Amazon affiliate deals to flipping properties. I mean, I guess you could if you really wanted money, but I think it's a bit deeper than that. I think a lot of us, including most of my listeners, myself included, it's not really about the money. It's about where we're putting our time and effort and what are we achieving through that. And of course, we should do that in a way that makes us more money. But money is not really the thing we're after, or at least I don't think we are. So to make medicine your side hustle is to say that in your clinical career, you're going to reach a point where every day is no longer a new day and you're not constantly learning. I mean, you are constantly learning, but perhaps not at the rate that you did, and you're perhaps not changing your clinical work environment and your surroundings every 3 or 4 months like we used to. And this kind of usually happens at the registrar to early consultant phase when you get more comfortable in your skin. You kind of know how to deal with most of the things around you. Of course, you're still learning. Of course, you're still giving exams. But not every day is, oh, I'm so absolutely exhausted. So around that time is when you can try to scale down your clinical hours, and it will actually maintain your skills. It will maintain your clinical abilities, including if you're a surgeon. And I've spoken to surgeons who've done this. And the first thing that you're going to start to notice when you scale down your clinical hours is that for the first time ever, you're actually resting. And when you feel rested, it's an odd and amazing feeling. Like I experienced this, and I said probably for the last 8 years, I haven't ever fully rested. And that just completely changed the way I started to look at the world. I had this new ability to finally be creative again and be innovative and actually focus for prolonged periods on something that I wanted to bring to life. And when I went back to clinical work, I was a lot more present. I was a lot more excited for it. And I had the headspace to actually learn again, because somewhere along the way, I'd become too tired to pick up that textbook or do that deep dive and go down that rabbit hole. So a lot of that started to happen. And what happens is you continue to reap the benefits of having clinical work. So the frontline patient interaction, knowing exactly what's going on at that frontline, having a degree of financial and career stability and security, as well as benefiting from things like pension and a community that I think we've really been a part of since we've come into our working lives, for pretty much all of us, except for some graduate trainees and some lucky people who've had second lives before they got into medicine. This is the only professional community we've really been a part of, and it's a big deal to try and leave it. So by going less than full time, reducing your clinical hours, you get the headspace, you get the stability and the security, and you get the community that you've always been a part of. So when you do that, you of course reduce the amount of income you make, but then it gives you the headspace and the ability to do something else that matters to you a lot more, something that gives you the purpose, the influence, and the equity is a lot more under your control, and ideally also allows you to make a bit more money with less time and a bit more impactful work, giving you the freedom and the flexibility and the control over your career that you've been looking for. So to me, when I say make medicine your side hustle, that's kind of what I'm talking about. All right. So with that, I thought I wouldn't ramble on this, but here I am talking for 17 minutes. Never expected that. But hey ho, on to the next question. ChatGPT asks, how do I figure out what I really want to do next? Especially when nothing feels wrong, but something feels off. This is a really interesting one because I think you can be in this space for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, even 10 years. You can say, oh, I'll just carry on because nothing's wrong. And it's actually one of the reasons why about last winter, when things were absolutely rubbish and local market was down and nobody was making any money and work was tough and you weren't getting valued for it, that's when I said that it's probably actually the best time to be on the front line of the NHS. And it seems silly and it seems funny, but I think it's the best time because you're finally going to be seeing exactly how your value is perceived by the system. And if you've been putting up with saying, oh, nothing's too wrong, nothing's too bad, I don't have to do anything about it, you're probably, for the first time, feeling a bit more forced into making that decision and asking yourself the question of, is it worth it? Is staying in this job worth it? Is all of the effort and time and energy I'm putting into this worth it? Is the lack of sleep, the grinding of my teeth, the stress on my family, the inability to be emotionally present, is that worth it? And I think that's what makes it the best time, because those are tough decisions. So you're not going to stay stuck in this place for the next 5, 7, 10 years down the line. And that feeling of something just being a bit off is easy to ignore, and saying, oh, nothing's totally wrong and we'll just carry on doing what we're doing is a lot easier to do. So really taking this journey is hard, and figuring out what to do next starts with the decision to do something next. Many of us have this internal desire and this want to do something, but we don't actually make the decision to do it. We just keep exploring and actually don't ever make the decision. And by not making the decision, you're actually deciding to stay exactly where you are. So figuring out what to do next starts with that decision. And once you've made that decision, the resources are endless. There's hundreds and thousands of resources and books and podcasts and people and coaches, even free services through the professional support and well-being for those of you who are in the NHS, that will help you figure out exactly what it is that you need to do. I'm going to list out a few of the places that you might want to start. Having clarity over your origin story, your mission, which is what do you want to do in this world that makes a difference, your vision, a future state that you want to see in the world, your origin, mission, and vision, having clarity over that. Doing exercises like finding your why. So have a read of Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, and find your why, because that's going to be the next piece of the puzzle that you're looking for. There's validated assessments. There's both paid and free versions of this. You can do things like the Myers-Briggs, which gives you an insight into who you are, how you think, what's your real value, how is it perceived. You could do the Gallup Strengths Assessment, which I'm a huge fan of. It gives you your unique combination of strengths that helps you figure out where do you put your energy in a way that you could be successful. So it's really about collecting all of that data, and in and amongst all of this, don't forget about the people that are always by your side, your family, your friends, and your loved ones. There's a lot of data that can be extracted from them in a structured manner that gives you even more insights into who you are, what your value is, what you should be doing. And if you didn't do medicine, what would you do to give this world something meaningful and valuable that's true to who you are and that's true to your innate talents and your abilities to make a difference in this world? I think too often we hide behind our certifications, we hide behind our labels and our postnomials. And if that was stripped away, it'd be a big and scary world, but we'd be forced to find a way to make a difference. And boy, I think there are some really big ones, big ways in which we could. So that's my take early on into finding out how and where you should put your time into next. And if you want to have a discussion about that, feel free to find me on LinkedIn, drop me a DM. I can connect you with some people and send you some resources and some links to get started if you'd like. You can also go to my YouTube channel where I've got a few more resources, and I talk about things like the Ikigai exercise and how to build a personal brand and reputation that you might enjoy if this is where you are. So there's a few more questions out there. I think this is quite a lot for us to cover for today. With that, I'm going to close this episode saying thank you very much for listening. Remember to sign up for my induction on 20th of May by going to my website, coachwithshub.com/induction. There's also a quiz on there, which can give you a bit more insight when it comes to data collection and figuring out where you are now, where you want to head to. But go ahead and sign up for the webinar and we can take it from there. If there's any questions, feel free to find me on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram as @Shub Says Impact, or on this podcast. Share this with somebody who you love and are friends with, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.